While he loves seeing the relieved look on his client's face after the hearing, he feels sheepish about meeting his competitors, as many are complaining about how bad things are, while his firm's case numbers are up this month, as compared to the same month last year. All the hearings go smoothly. At least there weren't any mistakes by his office. He says goodbye to his happy clients, and even gets a photograph and video testimonial from 2 of them. Since it's Wednesday, Nick meets his business manager for lunch, just like he does religiously every week, to review the weekly marketing data and identify the big rocks that need to be moved before the next weekly meeting. When Nick arrives at the office that afternoon, he finds new prospects in the waiting room, and one of them actually asks Nick to autograph his copy of the book Nick wrote. Nick takes the next hour to write thank you notes to clients, being sure to remind them that his firm appreciates referrals, and organizes the action items from the marketing meeting. Then, 8 p.m. sharp, the office is closed for an hour to hold the monthly meeting, so the firm can review the numbers and key performance indicators that run the business. By the end of the meeting, everyone is clear about what needs to be done by next month. New roles are set, duties are delegated, and they all agree what they'll get done by the next weekly meeting. By 4 p.m., Nick is walking out the door, just in time to beat the rush hour traffic and to arrive home early for dinner, again.
Second Nick better than the first Nick? Folks, I'm not bragging. Grandpa said I ain't bragging if you did it. Well, I don't run a law firm. That's what my business life is. Pretty much everything. That's what a lot of our clients' business life looks like. It all started with this first can-do act. Today, I'm going to give you a copy of our book if you'd like it. It's a form inside of your handout. You can fill it out and fax it to us. You can email it to us. If you'd like, you can just take it back to our booth. We'll still be there, and we'll give you a copy. After that's over, if you'd like, and you'd like to figure out how to personalize these 3 keys in your law firm, we will donate a 60-minute session where it won't cost you a nickel. We'll peel back the onion on your practice. We'll take a look and see how we can actually apply the 3 keys. And at the end of that 60 minutes, one of 2 things will happen. You'll either look at it and go, thanks so much for the information, go off and do it on your own, and we'll ask you to please keep in touch with us and let us know how it's going. Or 2, you'll say, you know what, I'd like for you guys to help me figure this out. We'll be glad to show you the next step. But for today, my name is Richard James, and I had such an enjoyable time teaching you how to build your practice one system at a time. Thanks so much, everybody.
At this point, we're going to go ahead and bring up a couple of attorneys and have a quick panel discussion. Each year at Avvo, we like to bring up some of you from out of your seats down there and put some seats up here, quite literally. Nika, who you've already heard speak today on how consumers think about practicing law, will now be running a quick panel discussion about lawyers and specifically branding yourself as an attorney. And we have a couple of great examples who do that work very well today. First of all, Julie Towek from Boston of Think Pink Law, and Timothy P. Flynn. Why don't you guys go ahead and come on up? And let's go ahead and give them a hand.
How's everybody doing?
Hi, everyone. Trying to get this to work. Do you mind back there? I need the slide to move on. The reason why I want you to see this slide is because this is an example of these 2 attorneys, I hope it will happen, and how each of them has their own way of branding themselves, of presenting themselves to the world. They're very different, they're equally effective, and the point is you can find your own niche, find your own voice, and be effective in your own way. So just to orient the discussion today, this is just going to be a conversation, very informal. What we really wanted to get us talking about is the idea that it's not enough to really tell the world, tell consumers how great you are. It's also important tell them how different you are from other attorneys they could possibly hire. And also how different you are from other legal resources there are out there that they could possibly use, right? So I'd like to pose this question to the panel members first, which is, what do you guys do, just as an example, to ensure that you stand out, that you're different from the other attorneys out there, you're different from other solutions, and that you're a better alternative? I'm going to start with Julie. Go ahead.
So I like to say that I'm a lawyer for humans, and I've seen it as a running theme through a lot of the presentations here over the past 2 days. And you know, my clients there's no difference between us other than I studied the law and how to practice, and maybe they didn't. And so I focus on making them feel more comfortable and less intimidated, because usually when they're coming to me, they're already in crisis mode. And anything that I can do to be able to ease that by being a human and acknowledging that they're human too is my goal.
So how do you kind of connect that to everything you do in your business? It's more than just an idea, right?
Yeah, it's more, I mean, it's my personality. I always say I'm just being me. You know, I wear jeans and t-shirts, pink, of course, unless I'm going to court. Court is usually the only time that I dress up. I like to say my clients are I'm the lawyer that clients hug at the end of the case, because it's more than just legalese. It's about recognizing that people are people and have emotions, and I don't know, I'm just me, I guess.
Tim, how do you do it?
I have a little bit more of an old school, new school story. I've been around a lot longer than Julie, sadly. And you can see it right on my the profile there. Clarkston is the firm that I joined back in 2003. And I remember trying to tell a client who was, I was driving and she was trying to take an email. I said, email me. And she said, all right, what's your email? Clarkston Cooney, and I love Leonard Clarkston to death. He's you know, the founding partner. But I just realized this whole, you know, Gibson, Dunning, Crutcher, and all these big law names, our law firm name, Clarkston Cooney, it was just too cumbersome. So I made the switch to Clarkston Legal. We're located in Clarkston, Michigan, and ever since then, now when I'm trying to tell a client, you know, how to get a hold of me, I don't have to spell Clarkston, because I've never spelled Clarkston once. It's always I'm spelling it 3 times. So I'm a firm believer in just branding a firm in a new way. And for this, in my case, Clarkston Legal works perfect. It tells what it is. It's in the town of Clarkston, which is in Oakland County, Michigan, and it's a law firm, and it's easy to brand. I think Google likes it. I know Avvo likes it. So that's been my experience. You know, old school, new school. And luckily, I have 2 partners. I have 5 law partners, but Mr. Stuart Cooney and Gunnar Karlstrom, they've let me run with the branding, so I've been fortunate there. And they're more senior than I by at least 10 years. And so the idea is going to be that Clarkston Legal will be something that can take over when they retire, and then also, even when I retire, if that name is available, it's not associated with me, I might be able to pass it on. I'm in the process of registering it right now for the U.S. government, the trademark office, and that's another advantage, I think. That's what I've been doing.
So you know, when branding and marketing experts talk about branding, a lot of times they like to talk about the brand as being the soul of what the business is. It's more than just, it's a logo, but it's more than a logo. It's a message, but it's more than a message. It's a promise, but it's more than that. It's really the heart and soul of what you offer. So I was hoping that you, whoever wants to start with this, kind of talk about how that works in action and how you do your marketing and your branding. How does your branding and marketing feel and come across to consumers and clients like the heart of who you are as an attorney?
So I'll start. I mean, my tagline is "We do law differently," and I think everything about my brand stands out as being different. I mean, it's pink, which is kind of absurd, but it's memorable and it stands out. So even if you're like, "What the hell is this?" you still remember it. But you know, it's being, again, personable and human, and so it makes you think, and I think, you know, it makes it approachable, and so the concept of being, I'm very passionate about what I do, and so my soul personally is poured into my brand and into my branding and connecting with people and connecting with clients and connecting with other attorneys in this whole process. So it's a very holistic feeling. Can we say feeling as lawyers? I don't know. Here, but it's a holistic approach to just you know, being. I feel like I'm repeating myself. Being human, and you know, and I use technology and I do all these things that people I think do in their everyday lives to try and also keep everything human and keep it real and keep it with what people are used to. And so that way I'm memorable too, and it kind of all connects together, I think.
So tell about Tim. How do you see as your brand as the heart of your practice? And I'm going to throw you a loop too. How do you present yourself in a world to differentiate yourself from the Julies in the world?
Well, I'm big on blogging. I think probably a lot of the attorneys out here blog. I'm really big on getting the law out to the people, draft it out to your clients, to your prospects. They're not your clients, they're your prospects. And I'm big on, in those blog posts, putting actual statute links out there to get the law to the people. It's not so much to do with yourself, because they are still going to, they're going to read your blog post, they're going to click on those links, and they're going to hire you because, you know, it's nice to take a look at the statute, but they're not really going to understand it. They're still going to hire you. So I'm real big on, and I believe that in this day and age, the information age, get the information to the people. And so whenever, you know, our firm's site, we have a standalone blog that got picked up by our local newspaper in northern Oakland County. And then we also have 3 internal blogs, one dedicated to probate, one dedicated to divorce, and one dedicated to criminal defense. It takes a lot of work, but the search engines love it. I noticed that Kevin O'Keefe isn't here this year, but he's real big on a standalone blog. I think it has something to do with his business model. But I've used both. Like I said, one blog is outside of our law firm's website, and then there are 3 that are embedded in it, and I've had really good success with that. So with each and every one of those posts, our URL is embedded in there, and it gets a message out, it gets our message out, and it helps us with the search engines.
Yeah, you guys just.
I guess, like when we talk on the phone. So, speaking of blogging, so I blog as well, and my take is a little bit different. I do believe, of course, in, you know, getting the law to the people, but one of the reasons that I think I connect so well with people is that I write in the same voice in which I speak. So when I'm blogging, it's like having a conversation. People can read legalese anywhere. There are, you know, other blogs that they can go to get the technical terms and the legalese, and I want them to be able to understand as if they were sitting in front of me and having a conversation. I know that when I was in law school, I appreciated when people actually spoke in normal human language, you know, when I didn't understand something. And so to put myself in my client's shoes and to just want somebody to tell them in plain, for them to just want somebody to tell them in plain English what is going on or what's happening to them or what the process is going to be, I think is huge. And so my goal and the reason I've been able to brand so well, and also the soul of my brand is part of my voice is part of that too.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's like there's a little hint of your brand promise, you know, the brand promise, your value proposition, how you stand out, what makes you different, and even your conversations, right, and the language that you use.
And Nikki, can I just add one thing on the blogging post, just the blogging process. I've been doing it since '09. Last year, I got a little taste of how powerful it's been for so many years. I was in front of a 3-judge panel of the Michigan Court of Appeals. It's a tribunal I've appeared in front of 100 times. And Judge O'Connell, I don't think he knows me from Adam. I mean, he may have seen me argue a case 1 or 2 times, but I introduced myself. I said, you know, may it please this court, my name is Tim Flynn. I'm here for the appellant. I had a felony convicted client. And Judge O'Connell said, wait a minute, Tim Flynn, he said, are you the law blogger? And I said, Judge, I am. And he went on and praised that blog and knocked my socks off. And then at the end of the argument, I lost the case because in every, you know, whenever you're appealing a felony case of a conviction, you know, it's the prosecutor that gets that royal flush, right? So I lost the case, but on the way out, you know, we we didn't get the decision yet, but Judge O'Connell said, and Mr. Flynn, make sure you keep blogging. Where I get out of the courtroom in the GM building down in Detroit, and the Oakland County prosecutor, who doesn't have to worry about getting clients, who doesn't have to worry about flogging, was just steamed that, you know, that Judge O'Connell started and ended the oral argument that way. And I've had 2 trial judges say, well, you know, I read your blog, and I was like, oh, you do? I couldn't believe it. But after, how many years has it been? After about 7 years of it, those posts start to generate traction, and they're still out there. And every once in a while, I blog about judges as well. There's one down in El Paso, I don't know if anybody's here from Texas, that presided over his own divorce. And the case got assigned to him, and in his wisdom, kept it around on his docket for a while. And that's the kind of thing that I know it when I see it. So you can blog about that. And that's in my standalone blog. That's more of a general public interest, but it's a catchy thing like that. I know it when I see it, and then I blog about it.
You know, this is really, really important because you can engage in marketing activities as a practitioner without a solid brand, and it's not going to get the kind of traction that it would get if it was branded, if there was some sort of voice and identity attached to it. And I think that is an excellent example that that brand sort of has its own equity. It can kind of carry your marketing activities to a different space, another level over time. So I'm going to throw you guys a question. In all transparency, we kind of had a conversation beforehand just to let them know what I was going to talk about. I didn't ask this question earlier, so I'm going to throw you for a I love Nike as a brand. I don't purchase any of Nike's stuff, like the shoes don't really fit me right, etc. But I love Nike as a brand because you really get that brand just by looking at the logo. You understand what they stand for, you understand the value proposition, and as a brand market researcher in my past life, I aspired to kind of create the type of brand that Nike's tried to develop. Right? It's very clear, it's very succinct. My question to you is, are there any brands out there outside of the legal space that you think are nice inspirations, nice muses for you to sort of use as a model for how legal practitioners can do what they're doing?
Well, mine's going to be completely cliche because Apple, of course, I would say. I used to work for Apple, so I started practicing law in 2013. Being a lawyer is my second career. I worked for Apple as a lead creative trainer for several years before that, and I mean, it's such an inspiring and thinking outside the box kind of environment that I got lucky and I was kind of bred with that intuition and with that thought process, and I really enjoy it. So for me, I see the golden days of Apple when I worked there because they've changed a little now. They've grown a lot. I had a really good experience there, and so I always go back to those roots with, what can I do as an attorney? How can I think outside the box? What have I learned from that experience and training people that way and educating, my customers in Apple? How can I educate my clients and make those connections too? So that always keeps me inspired.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, it has to be Google. I mean, I kind of grew up with it. I remember when my kids were real little, I stepped away from big law, 250-person law firm in Detroit, and I started teaching paralegals at the University of Detroit, my law school alma mater. And back then, Google was just getting started, and I was hired to kind of get the information from the textbooks and from the sage on the stage to the students. And I developed an internet-based paradigm, and it was right around the time, back in 94, 95, Google was just getting started. And today, with our branding that is going on now, how I'm trying to differentiate myself from all the other masses of general practitioners that are out there, I've used Google. I think I've figured it out pretty good with their analytics. I've always kind of kept up on what they're doing, and it just seems like they have a really good culture. It seems like Avvo's a little bit like, it's not really a startup anymore, but it once was. Now Google's kind of, the evil big brother. But if you can figure them out, if you can kind of get behind that velvet curtain, they're your friend.
Yeah, and Google's an interesting brand because it's evolved over time, and I think that's a really important thing to remember too. I think Amazon's also one of these brands that have evolved over time. It used to be an online bookstore, and that's pretty much it. So when you saw that logo and you thought of Amazon, you thought, okay, books ordered online. Now it's so much more. It's a lifestyle for a lot of people, right? You stream videos. So, and again, this might be kind of out of the blue a little bit, but how do you see your brand having evolved over time, and where do you think a brand like yours might evolve in the future?
So I actually started branding myself while I was still in law school. I had a blog that I started in law school called Legally Blonde Boss for Boston, because I'm from Boston. And I would write just about anything that came up or that I thought of. Study tips for law students. I would do mind maps from my classes and I would post them online. Interview techniques. Anything that I thought would be helpful for people in law school. And the blog was pink, of course. And so that original brand has evolved into Think Pink Law, which when I started my firm, I thought, how can I stand out? And everybody that knew me and that knew that I had my blog said, well, you have to do pink. You have to do pink. People know that you're the pink lawyer. You're pink, pink, pink. So I said, okay, I'll try it. Now's the time to take a risk, right? When I'm just starting.
Yeah.
So that was my first kind of evolution. And even now, there's a copy on my website that I wrote when I first started my practice, and especially after going to conferences like here, like Lawyernomics and Clio and Tech Show, I always have these ideas of, how can I change it? How can I make it better? How can I connect with people more? Have my clients evolved? Who are my clients now? Who were they when I started? So I think anything's possible. I don't know, but it's always good to keep an open mind with the changes.
I noticed that neither of our names are on those logos. For me, the first thing that's going to go is the Clarkston Cooney. Again, working with my partners that are slowly going to be retiring. Sadly, I too will retire someday and die. Well, Clarkston Legal couldn't possibly live on. The next thing that's going to happen is it's going to have that R with the circle around it, right after Clarkston Legal instead of the .com. I got to drop the .com, but that's implicit now. So that's what's going to happen to me. And again, it goes back to branding, where the big law firm names are dead. And I would even say, if you can, think about branding your firm without using your name, because there's opportunities that lie within that process, and because all of us are going to retire, and nobody's going to buy your name unless you can figure out, you can always hire associates, but if you're not there, if your name's on the door and you're not there, things can go wrong. Whereas I'm thinking Clarkston Legal can be sold at some point, and the brand can move on.
It's really interesting. What I think is also interesting is your comment about the .com being, that's starting to become irrelevant, and not because it's inherently irrelevant, but because our society has changed, it's shifted. We're also tech savvy now that it is implied. So there are also cultural, social changes that we all have to be aware of as we decide how to brand. What are people wanting? What are consumers liking? Do you think about that a lot? How do you think about the potential client that you want to walk through your door as you project yourself as a brand?
It's funny about the .com. My intellectual property lawyer told me that, because I'm working things out with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office right now, and they didn't like that .com. So my lawyer told me that's got to go. And so, okay. And then it's too geographic, so we're applying to get around that through the back door and all that. But it is just a very important process. We put so much, everybody here in these seats, we put so much into our practice that branding is important to distinguish yourself from the shark that's down the street. And they're out there.
So I do, you might have seen my website up earlier yesterday. I do firearms compliance and family law and estate planning. So one of the questions that I get asked the most is, well, are your clients more male or female? Because it is pink, but I do firearms compliance, which tends to be a male-heavy niche. And honestly, it's both. I have both. And so, I'm always thinking of how to appeal to both. And I've never had any male client say, well, you're too pink for me, I can't work with you. Or any female client say, what is this? So, and I don't know if maybe they don't know what they're getting into because they don't realize it until they really see it and hear it. When I when I get calls, but you know, I'm constantly thinking about how it reflects to clients, and especially in an industry that is a little bit imbalanced with the sexes. It's interesting, but so far it's worked. So.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure there are people out in the audience who are experienced branders. And I'm sure there are people out there who are just starting to think about branding. So first, let's talk to the people who are just getting started. What advice do you have to these lawyers who are just now starting to think about branding, or at the early stages of developing a brand identity and developing the heart of their business? What would you advise them to think about? What pitfalls might they avoid?
So one of the things that I developed my own 3 Ps of branding, which is passion and personality equals persuasion. And so if you're a solo or a small firm, you have a unique opportunity where you can tap into what makes you you and what makes you passionate about what you do and why you get up in the morning. Hopefully there's still some passion there. And if not, then find it. Find it and keep looking for it and keep looking for new ways to be passionate. And whatever that is, you know, branding is more than just a logo. It's more than just visual. You have to translate how you feel about what you do. And it doesn't have to be, your passion doesn't have to come from the law. I mean, it could be, you could be a boxer. I have a friend who boxes, and you were talking about, you know, he likes to fight for people and get in people's corner, and, you know, his tagline was like, in your corner. So it doesn't have to, your passion doesn't have to be related to the law, but you can connect the dots to what makes your passion your personality and bring that into your practice. Especially if you're a solo or a small firm, you're really lucky that you can do that.
I would say develop your own content. Do not farm that out. If you look at canned content, legal, it's crap. Just develop your own content. So you have to develop your own news feeds. And it's actually, this is the time when all of us here know that no matter what kind of law you practice, like, you know, Julie's 3 areas are pretty disparate, but there are a lot of news feeds for each one of those. We also do the big 3, the probate mitigation, family law, and criminal defense. So develop news feeds in all of that stuff, and then get a responsive design website that you edit. Don't wait for a committee to write the content, or they have a committee that has to approve it. You take control of your content and get a platform that you can, if there's some new change in the law, like today, write 500 words and put that on your website. Design the website so that it can be page rich with content. There's 2 things that happen. Google loves it, and you're going to be at the top of your county listings in those 3 spots that we learned about the other day, and that's always shifting. And secondly, guess what? You're going to be, it forces you to stay up on all the developments in your respective areas. That's what I would say is part of it, critical to the branding process.
That's also part of, you know, writing your own voice, you know, to connect with people. If you farm it out, you're not going to sound like you. And when people meet you, they're going to know. If they've read an article that you've written, and then they meet you and you don't sound like how you write, they will sense a lack of authenticity there.
It sounds like doing it yourself is the best way to make sure that your brand shines through your content.
I don't even let Avvo write my content.
Understandable.
As good as you folks are.
Okay, great advice. Okay, so now what about the people out there who have already developed a brand to some extent and are trying to figure out what to do next? What are some tips, some advice to kind of take their brand to the next level?
2 words for me: constant contact. If you're already writing a blog and then you're waiting for people to come to it, then okay, send it out to them. Develop your email list. Get that thing going in the thousands, not the hundreds. And it doesn't matter if some people unsubscribe you. That's going to happen. It doesn't matter if 70% of the people that you send it to don't even open it. There's going to be. We've sent out newsletter number 4, and I've been wanting to do this for years, and going in and out of courts. We just have 4 newsletters each month. We just did a tax-related issue because it's April, and I've had 2 clients call me, old, former clients, and hire us for. So, oh yeah, I've been meaning to call you guys, and I just got this newsletter. So thanks for sending that to me. And by the way, can I come in and see you? So that's one thing, and then the other thing that seems to work for me, as far as the branding goes, and we were talking about this the other day, unlike Google, which is is all about its own database and searching and all that. Facebook, which is, I think of it as two oceans, the Google ocean and the Facebook ocean. And the Facebook ocean is really good to brand your blog posts. It's just a simple, the first thing you do is you geographically tailor it, literally by zip code and county or whatever you want, gender, age, you can do that with Facebook. And then when you post something, put it on your law firm's Facebook page and boost it for $30 or $50, and you'll see instead of getting 75 pairs of eyeballs on it, you're going to get 2,500 pairs of eyeballs on it. I've never had a client come in the office and say, when I ask them, and I always do, and I was looking at it, how did you, do we know somebody in common, or how did you find us? They've never said Facebook. They will always say, I found you on the internet, or a lot of times they hear Google, and about a third of the time I hear Avvo, but I never hear Facebook. But that's not the purpose of it, because it's just more of a general branding exercise. So those are the two devices that I recommend to the audience.
So mine is a bit more philosophical. I focus a lot on brand philosophy and get very romantic about it. So I would say, you know, with technology the way it is, I think you can forget that face-to-face contact makes a big difference. And I'm guilty of it myself too. And so I constantly have to think about, okay, I'm online all the time. How much am I doing all the time online? But how am I taking those connections offline? How am I meeting people face-to-face? And I think that if you're starting to get into doing all this online marketing and branding and everything, don't forget your roots and where you came from. I think there has to be a balance between connecting with people online that you otherwise couldn't have in the past, but taking it one step further and making sure that you continue to have face-to-face contact and relationships with people.
So, I've heard a ton, throughout this conference, a ton of different marketing channels, tons of different ways you can reach out to potential clients, get those leads, Facebook, Twitter, there are all sorts of things that, some of them way over my head. Does your brand identity have anything to do with how you choose the right marketing channel or not, and why?
I would say for me it's more industry or niche of what I practice. I mean, I don't know. I keep hearing about like attorneys using Pinterest. What am I going to pin? Like how many guns can I pin, you know, a day? There are plenty of people pinning guns. You know, I'm not going to pin a divorce decree or something, or a judgment or something. So I think of, you know, for where are my people? Where is my tribe? Where are my clients? Where are they hanging out? And those are the places that I gravitate to. But also, what do I already know? Where are mine actually, you know, hanging out? And so I bridge that gap and find the overlap and do those things. So for me, it's blogging, YouTube, and Facebook.
I have to say, I too, it's somewhat baffled and just can't keep up with all the different platforms. I know you just mentioned YouTube. If I have a weakness, I would say our videos are not, you know, I just don't have the time to make videos. What I did like, I had the first ever in my career oral argument in the Michigan Supreme Court, and that, as high courts go, is a pretty sophisticated court. They record the arguments, and it's on YouTube. And I thought that was pretty cool, so I put that on the site. But I would say my bread and butter for my brand is Google and Facebook. Like I said, I think of them as two separate oceans. And then I kind of use Avvo as a river connecting those two. Those are the three biggies for me, and I agree with Julie wholeheartedly. Pinterest. I do have an Instagram page, and my son got me going on that, saying, okay, you got to have Instagram. We have one son that works for Apple, and one's a freshman at OSU and Ohio State University. He's just really big into Instagram. And I've noticed that with the age of the client, like my son that's the freshman in college doesn't even use Facebook anymore at all. That was something that I started noticing. And they all use the Instagram. It's visually appealing and so forth. So I've had to start paying attention to that. So it is an evolving type of practice process.
And I want to go back. So now that I think about it, I mean, there probably are things I could do on Pinterest. Like, of course, I could pin or repin pictures of guns. There's this whole thing with printables now and offering like a list or like a, top 5-10 things to do after your license to carry gets revoked or something like that. And, perhaps that is something now that I'm thinking, on my feet, that's something that I could pin, I guess. For those of you that are looking up my website and looking at my YouTube channel potentially, my 2016 goal is videos and blogging. So I only have a couple videos up because I just started with my marketing push, and my goals for this year are that.
So yeah, it sounds like infographic sort of material might be good on Pinterest or whatnot. So you don't have to do it all, right? You don't have to use every single marketing channel.
And you shouldn't. You should focus on what you like, what you're good at, and where your people are.
You can be spread too thin.
Yeah.
It's true.
So the strategy that you use to decide where to go.
Exactly. Because if you do if you try to brand yourself on a platform that then you forget about, if someone sees you on it and the last post was in 2013, that says something. So you gotta be careful.
And yeah,
I'm guilty of that too. I have some platforms out there and some profiles that are on sites that JD Super, I used to post them, but I don't post that yet. Just don't have the time.
yeah, and to Julie's point, like, why bother being marketing your brand in a channel that your people aren't going to be looking at, right? If your brand. So talking more about your people, how do you decide who your people are? How do you know who your people are that you want to message your brand to?
For me, it's I'm lucky because I practice. I have a general practice in all three of my main areas, as I said, divorce, probate litigation, and criminal defense. These are areas where the person that needs this advice, that needs to find us, and I'm sure a lot of folks out there practice in one of those three areas. I have a 10-lawyer firm, but the people we're trying to get, they're not going to turn to their neighbor and say, my spouse is cheating, who's a good lawyer? They might not even call a family member. Some do, but these days, they dive to the internet and find the lawyer they're going to hire. That's been my experience. So I'm fortunate to be in practice where it's well suited for that. So my people are the ones that are that have very sensitive, painful issues that they need to connect with someone that they hitherto have not known anything about. It's a new world to them, and I've had good success at connecting because of the branding process. I've had more than just a few prospects that ended up hiring me because I was looking around and this was such a daunting process, and I saw your website and I just had this feeling that you guys could help me, and I've had people say that a couple of times. So that tells me in the back of my mind, all right, I think I'm doing something right. So I just keep doing it, and I've kind of given as much of the secret sauce or secret to the trade of how I do it as I can here. But I guess what I would say too on that point is check out my website, check out Julie's website, and just see if you can get anything from it. I stopped talking to local bar organizations in Michigan and Oakland County because I didn't want to give up the secret sauce here at the national conference.
Then speak live stream on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
Secrets out. I say everybody's my people. I will say, however, that I like conversation, and I think a conversational approach. I've had opposing counsel in cases that are super litigious to the point of being unprofessional. I've had opposing counsel say, I don't want to speak to a child and hang up on me. If my people are looking for a lawyer like that, they're not my people, because I'm not that kind of a lawyer. Otherwise, other than that, I think everyone's my people.
So we talked about a lot of tips on what to do, and also a little bit about what not to do. What would you describe as a branding fail? How do you know if a brand is failing? What does it look like so that those of us out there who are trying to create a brand for ourselves would know when we're facing a disaster?
Technically, I would say if your website is like Web 1.0 still, that's kind of a branding fail. I'm
it's stale content. I can spot a blog post or a lawyer's website content that was mechanically written by some marketer from 50 pages. That is a big fail. Like I said, write your own content and keep it updated. It'll force you to keep up with the changes in your practice. And it's just, to have stale content is a big fail. And secondly, get your facts straight too. Make sure that you give it the obligatory, is this factually accurate? That to me are the big ones.
How do you find the time?
I don't know.
It is
How do you
challenging.
find the time to keep your content fresh, to keep your brand fresh, to keep evolving, stay out there, and still practice law? How do you do that?
I would just say that everybody here, I think would agree with me that no matter what you've done in your life, whether it's a Marine Corps boot camp or a high school athletic team or getting a law degree, one of the most difficult things ever in my life for me has been to be a partner in a small law firm for these last 10 years. It's a job I love, but nothing in my life has been this challenging.
So we're a little bit different. I'm a solo, and I am completely solo. I don't have a staff. I have an intern who studied for the bar, so she is non-existent right now. And she was only part-time a couple hours before the bar as well. So, and she's amazing. So I wish she was around more. But I do everything myself. I wear like 50 hats every couple of minutes, I think. And I don't know how I do it, to be honest.
It can be done. It can be done.
I guess I'm doing it. So.
Do you ever think about hiring just a branding expert to come in and
No.
take over the whole thing? Why not?
Because I don't know that it would have to be somebody that's like my clone. Because my brand is so personal to me and it's so me, it is who I am, that for somebody else to try and do it, I don't think would succeed. And I'm super picky about that. I was talking to somebody else about it. If I opened another office somewhere, who would run it? And I just don't trust that anybody can be.
Do you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add. I am too very picky. It's your brand is your professional persona. You are your brand. You can't really find that out unless you really trust the individual.
Great. Okay, we have 10 minutes, and I saw a hand go up, so I think we should just go ahead and yes.
Okay. Let me know if you can't hear me.
Okay, I think we can.
So, I think you mentioned that Apple was one of the brands that you look to for inspiration. Then you also said I can't farm it out to anyone else. Both of you mentioned that. Well, where would Steve Jobs have been if he had said that and stayed a one-man show? So I'm just wondering how you reconcile something like that rather than growing and having help you and being able to find the right people that will get you and help you continue along with your brand.
So let me repeat that for people who didn't hear that, and I hope I repeat this correctly. Her question is that they both refuse to hire a branding expert to take it to the next level, although both of them really are big fans of brands that wouldn't have gotten where they are if they didn't have a branding team. So how do they reconcile those two things?
So I guess I'll rephrase. I wouldn't hire a branding expert, but I would hire a support staff to help me. I would be very picky about who I hired. My intern and I say that we're soulmates because she comes pretty close to thinking things like I do. So I wouldn't hire anybody to take over the branding, but as far as other support staff or other attorneys, I would be very picky. Steve Jobs was picky. He was a hard ass too. So I think it's a pretty a good reconciliation because it's very similar.
I mean, I've tried. I'm just a little guy, but I've tried. And how I've tried is I have 6 law partners, and I can't get them to walk for nothing. And they've given me the reins and say, knock yourself out. And my practice areas are well suited for it, so I knock myself out. I am walking at 5:30 in the morning this morning before I came here. But my associates, I have 4 associates that report just to me, and I have a little more control over them, and I have to really nudge them to get me content. And I have them working on various specific areas of our web pages, very specifics of family law, specifics of criminal defense. And, you know, they don't like to do it, but I'm trying. So that has helped because, you know, I use an incentive system. So that's how I've been approaching it. But I don't want to, I can't give them too much control. So it's like it's a lovely.
But you make a good point. These two are talented at marketing and branding and blogging. Lawyers don't learn that in law school, right? You don't learn branding, you don't learn blogging, you don't learn marketing 101. So it is kind of interesting to think about when you might need to hire support staff or hire someone else to help, just to get you to that level to where your brand can do its own work. Any other questions? Back there with the cap on.
Yeah, how did you come up with the logo?
Who are you talking to, both of them?
Julie.
So I knew that I wanted something that represented, you know, knowledge and academia, and because with a name like Think Pink, everything else has to be stronger than pink. I mean, it has to balance the kind of softness of calling something pink. So I wanted it to represent knowledge, and so I thought of a crest, and I hired a company that on Elance that came up with a couple different mock-ups, and we ended up putting everything together. You know, they asked me how I would describe my firm, and I said fun, innovative, young, tech-savvy, not intimidating, not boring, and they came up with amazing. There's nothing like seeing what you feel about your business translated into something visual that like makes everything so worth it and so exciting. I mean, that's, again, I get very romantic about being a legal entrepreneur. So I remember when I got all of my logo mock-ups, and it's just mind-blowing.
I just have a friend that is a graphic design artist, and what I've been doing, she's pitched a few logos. That's an older logo, like we said, but it's there. I like the way she did the graphics. We're going to strip off the .com, but in the meantime, though, I've been able to use that format for Waterford Legal, which is a community adjacent to Clarkston, kind of where I'm from. She also did the logo for Motor City Legal, and I've got the URLs for all of these. I don't have the time to build different law firms. That's not going to happen. But I do have a Motor City law blog, and she did the logo for that. So someday my dream is to, like Steve Jobs, maybe get a little bigger, sell these things off as maybe franchises or something. But the logos are all consistent. The Motor City Legal still has that crest, but it's got instead of like the points, it's got a tire design, and it actually looks pretty cool. I just have not done anything with it yet. So in my case, I got lucky with a friend that was able to do them for me very inexpensively.
Right. I think someone over here had a question.
Yeah. Excuse me, I had a question. You may have covered it earlier, so I apologize if I missed that. But in terms of Think Pink law, there's no lawyer name in it, and some states have rules on you have to have the names of the lawyers in it. Sorry if you had touched on that, but I'm kind of curious. I looked at your website, didn't really see a firm name associated with that. How did you overcome that obstacle?
Well, Think Pink law. I'm Think Pink law, originally called DBA Think Pink law. So I am a sole proprietor. I'm not an entity. And in Massachusetts, as long as you register your brand trade name with your town, you're fine. So that's what I did.
Same issue. Excuse me. You can use a brand name. Sorry. Just gonna get around it that way.
Still on the front.
Do we have time?
Is it raising his hand?
He's been raising his hand.
Sorry.
For quite a while. No, go ahead. I'll repeat your question.
Okay, sure. Well, thank you, Mike.
Oh, great.
So, I wanted to follow up on something you said, Tim, about the franchising. There's in the family law area, there's a nationally franchised firm that markets themselves as the Father's Rights law firm. And they're in my town in Wisconsin, and when I landed in Las Vegas on the cab ride over from the airport, turns out they're advertising on the radio here in Las Vegas. They're nationwide. And I guess my point is, or question is, do you think that might be the future of legal branding and legal marketing, of this kind of nationwide franchise model that this family law firm has done?
To answer your question, it could be. For me, it's more about hyper-local. I'm all about hyper-local. So develop these little, the ClarkstonLegal.com, RiverCityLegal.com for Detroit. And then if you get some young upstart, somebody that's out of law school a couple of years, they want that name, you can sell it to them. Because in Michigan, the ethic rules I think a lot of states are like this part. You can use a trade name. Now, the other part of your question, there's one called, I think it's Adam, Adam Divorce Law for Men. It could work that way. I think those guys are probably doing well and getting very wealthy over it. We have an outfit where I'm from called Victoria, and they branded themselves. They were one of the first firms that did away with, I think they did it in like the mid-'80s, they did away with the named partners model, and they went to Victoria for, they only take women clients getting divorced, and the way they brand it is pretty good. They're also high-end, and they're located in Birmingham, Michigan. So, it's worked very well on a small scale for them, but I think that it's Katie by the door if you come up with the right, I think Johnny Cochran's name has been branded, and I see signs around Flynn, Michigan with Johnny Cochran's name and image that he purchased and is now being marketed. So it could work. There's some potential if anybody has. I think it has to be the exact right brand to pull it off.
Thanks.
With something like that, I would be concerned with pigeonholing yourself too much into a niche, and perhaps because I thought of that too. I do. Since I do divorce stuff too, I've had a lot of male clients that I think have been taken advantage of because they're just, I just want to go over and give her whatever she wants, and I feel like no, we have to fight. But then I don't want to isolate other potential clients that are coming from the other side, the wives and the mothers either. So I think I don't think that I would ever really go that far in branding toward something that might feel isolating to a lot of people.
Thanks. I have to cut us off now. We're out of time. Please follow both Tim and Julie on Twitter, and if you have any other questions, feel free to find us afterwards. We'll be kind of milling around the back. I can talk personally for hours and hours about branding. I'm sure these people, we have talked for hours about it, so please come find us. And Dan is up next. I'm really looking forward to Dan's talk. So thank you very much. Thank you.